Gotta kick off the show here.
We're agreeing.
Something cleaned up.
Welcome back to the Mafia Cast. How is everybody doing? We've got Matt Parrino with us today. Thank you for coming on, Matt. How's everybody doing?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. So we finally got the schedule release. We're just going to jump right into this. We're not going to waste any time. Schedule release. Matt, what is your first impressions of what we got going on with the schedule and how it lays out?
Yeah, so first things first, it's a really tough open. I mean, you come out with the Cardinals, which I think is a winnable game at home, and then it's just kind of like a gauntlet to kind of get through Miami on a short week, mini bye there, and then you come up, the Ravens and the Texans. I mean, there's some really tough games in there, and if you're not careful, you could sit there, come out 2-4 to start in your first six, the Jets on Monday Night Football, and then all of a sudden, maybe if Miami comes out hot or the Jets come out hot, you're sitting behind the 8 ball in the division. Now, the nice thing is, beyond those 6 games, the Bills kind of get into that middle part, into the back end, where I think you're really excited about that stretch. It almost bakes in the nice ability to come out maybe slow and then be able to make up some ground in that second part of the schedule. And then the toughest games, I mean, Kansas, you can make an argument for Baltimore and Houston being tough back to back, but then you look at Kansas City and the Niners, the Super Bowl teams from last year, it's broken up by the bye. They're both at home. I think you like that. And then how janky has the schedule been the last couple of years? Primetime games, gaps in the schedule, longer rest, shorter rest. This year, after those first 7 weeks, it is Sunday, 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 all the way through. I think if you're Sean McDermott, you really are excited about that because he is a super rhythm-based, schedule-oriented guy that if he can get this team into a schedule and into a routine, I think they play the best when they're able to be in that. And a couple of years ago, when they went on that run, it was amazing because of all the things schedule-wise they had to deal with. This takes all of that out of it and lets them just concentrate on football.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's five road games right off the bat. Out of the first 8, which is nice because the back end you're at home a little bit more. But Casey, what do you think as far as the schedule goes and what you've seen?
So I think I got my wish. Monday, I said I kind of hope that we load up on the front end of the schedule again with the harder opponents. And I know we have a lot of turnover. A lot of rookies are going to be asked to play a lot more than usual in starting roles this year. And I was saying that's where we can hope that Josh Allen can be superhuman and try to will us to, a couple of wins in the first 5-6 weeks of the season. And then, like Matt said, you hit that middle to end of the road, of the season, and it's more so winnable games. And then by that time, the rookies aren't necessarily rookies anymore. They're more accustomed to being in the NFL. So I'm happy with how the schedule has come out.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a terribly tough schedule. I like getting the tough games out of the way in the beginning. But what I'm struggling with is I don't know, Jack. I see Jack. I'm picking out the losses, and I really want to see us have 13 wins this year. But Jacksonville in the beginning, we're talking about the middle of the season, but I could see maybe Indianapolis being an issue there in the middle, and then the end with New England, playing twice in 3 weeks. That's kind of funky there. So I want to say I'm really hopeful for this team. I want to see a lot of wins here, and I'm struggling with that, but I think it is a moderately, it's not too tough of a schedule where we will do pretty well with it.
Well, both of you mentioned now the getting the harder games out of the way, but we've got 49ers and Detroit, the Chiefs in that second half of the season. That to me is going to kind of maybe be the defining part of the schedule, because I think they're all within, three of the four within 4 weeks. With like Matt was saying, the bye is in there in week 12. Uh, but Matt, what's one game on this that you're really looking forward to? Like the one that stands out and you get excited about.
I'd probably go with the Houston game on October 6th for obvious reasons. I mean, Stephon Diggs versus Josh Allen, the one that we get. Yeah, I'm shocked that it's not on prime time, and even more so that they've buried it as a 1:00 start on CBS. I thought that
Yeah.
would be something that if they were to put it during the daytime, have it be like a 4:25 featured game or something like that. Like, I wonder if they try to still even get like Nance and Romo on the call, or how they end up working this, because that's a massive game. And at that point, you could be talking about, two of the top teams in the AFC, and obviously having a lot of history. I mean, you go back even to 2019 when the Bills made the playoffs, and Josh Allen's first playoff game against Houston, they went up 16-0, and obviously that comeback. So like this, it's two teams that have a little bit of a history, and now that history has gotten much more personal in this year. So I'm
Yeah.
surprised that wasn't more prominently placed, but it's one I'm super excited about, because that's one of the teams that's in now that contender conversation with the likes of the Bengals and the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bills, a legit team. And I think the Jags are there too. Like, the Jags sneaky after a ho-hum start in free agency, I think have really done a good job at like solidifying that roster. I think they're going a lot better than they were on pace to be. And they're a team that was already pretty good last year. And the Bills are getting them in week 3, which they're probably going to be healthy. They're probably going to be good. I think it's going to probably be decent weather in Orchard Park, so you don't have that really going for you. And they beat the Bills last year on a neutral field. So it wasn't very neutral. I was there. It was very much Bills Mafia representing. I mean, it was pretty loud when the Bills were on defense. So I'm really looking forward to that Houston game. But there's a bunch of them. There's some really good games. I think Bills fans are going to be excited about that Seattle game. LA in December. I mean, just when you start getting those winter blues, hit the West Coast. I like to call it the best coast. Sorry, I lived in Vegas for 5 years. I'm not ashamed to say that that's going to be a fun road trip for me.
Nice.
I live in Idaho, so I'm pretty much on the west. So
Okay.
I get it.
I
I
mentioned
get
the
it.
Jags. They got our old receiver there too, Gabe Davis.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
a good
another
point.
one. And Jacksonville always seems to play as tough here in the last few years. It seems like too. So that one, little concerned about. I am looking forward to the Texans game for again for the same reasons, but the one I'm kind of excited about is the San Francisco game. I don't know why, but I'm really looking forward to that game. I feel like that's kind of that'll be a big test for Buffalo at that point of the season. And I mean, who knows? By the time we get to that, we might be buried in the division, or maybe we'll be at the top of the division. Who knows with this season? A lot is up in the air. But Casey, what's a couple of games here that you're looking at? You've got circled on your calendar.
The Lions game is a game that I'm really intrigued about. I mean, that's a team that, rose from the ashes just like the Bills have. They traded for Jared Goff. I mean, they really built that team from the bottom up. I mean, and Campbell has done a fantastic job. And last year,
Yeah.
making that run to the NFC championship game, I really thought that they were the better team in that game, and then they just didn't. They were so young, they didn't know how to close it out. They just kind of thought the Niners were going to go away, and they didn't, which is why they lost the game. But it just seems like it. If you compare the Bills to last year and the Lions last year, it would have been just an offensive juggernaut of a game. You could see it being something like 35-42. And this year, I mean, I think it's going to be kind of like that again. I think both offenses are going to be rolling, especially by the point we play in the season, December 15th. So that's going to be a really, really interesting game.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
like not worry about that one right away. I feel like we should just beat them at the end of the year. But
Yeah, I will say I will say this for me, having the advantage of having these guys in the latter part of the season, the Chiefs, Lions, and Niners, is because we're a younger team now. We've replaced a lot of veterans. We've got some rookies that we expect to probably contribute. It'll be kind of nice to get that early season under their belt, kind of get them acclimated to Josh Allen's fastballs, and hopefully by the time we get to the latter part of the season, they'll be humming. But um, the Seattle game, that's one that I'm looking forward to because as we speak, my wife is downstairs planning the trip, so we'll be making that one, taking the whole family. There's probably going to be, I don't know, like 20 of us, but not all of us are Bills fans. But so
I'll tell you,
that should be
just the AFC East games alone this year are really exciting. I mean, they always are. We love playing Miami, but it's like you could almost count on going 1-on-1 with the Jets. So that's always going to be a good game to watch both times. And then New England, they really give them a chance here at the end. I think they're trying to do their best to give them a shot.
Yeah. Speaking of which, man, I want to ask you because we were kind of talking about this before we started the show. Do you think it's kind of odd that they put the Patriots into the last three and not maybe the Jets or the Dolphins, given obviously the competitive nature of the AFC East?
I wonder how much like at the end they're just kind of like jamming things together. Like they have so many probably like little things that are happening with every team's schedule, and not everyone comes out like perfectly. Like you'd like to spread out the divisional matchups, you'd like to do all that. Sometimes I think it just comes down to it, like with all the prime times and appeasing all the networks, you just have to kind of do a couple of funky things. But it's a huge advantage for the Bills. I mean, depending on how this thing plays out this year, if they're around 500 going into the last month. And with that tough slate, like Ron, like you mentioned, like that is a tough stretch. You can make an argument for that early stretch being the toughest or that back end. The only thing that the back end has going for it is you get the Super Bowl teams at home, which I think you really like those two matchups in Buffalo. You get them split up by the bye, and then you get to go out to LA where weather probably won't be a factor, and then the Dome in Detroit where weather won't be a factor. So I think that a lot of things are advantageous about that stretch that you really like. But no, I think that if you're a Bills fan, you're jumping for joy at the Patriots twice, a chance to really demoralize that franchise at the end of the year with all the hope that's around what's going on. I almost like thought Bills fans were really excited about maybe the Patriots in week 1. And I was like, I think Brissett's going to start the year. So I think that they're at the end of the season, like you have a chance to really just deflate Drake May at the end of his first season. I think you lean into that as a Bills fan. And oh, by the way, maybe get a chance to win 2 games. Maybe I'm just not viewing this properly. Maybe the Patriots are going to be a lot better than I think. I think they have a chance to have a good defense. I think that they have a chance. They got better players on offense. It all comes down to the quarterback play, obviously. But they're going to be feisty. I like Gerard Mayo. Like I think that they're going to be a team eventually that maybe figures it out if they got the quarterback right. But I don't think this year. So I think that that's a really good spot to be in if you're a Bills fan.
Yeah, I like that. We do want to talk a little bit about the off season and what they've done and everything, as far as the new additions, new faces, the rookies, free agents, and all of that. And so, do you feel, Matt, that with what they've done to this point, are they still would you consider them still the favorites in the division?
Oh, without a doubt. For a couple reasons. First of all, the Dolphins have gotten worse in a key area that I think is where they struggle against the Bills to start with, and that's their defensive line. I mean, even at full strength the last couple of years, they haven't had a lot of answers for Josh Allen. And so until they prove that they can stop him, like that secondary, it's going to be better. Like I really like the addition of Fuller. I think that's pretty good. But what good is a great secondary if you're not able to get pressure? And I have question marks about, Jalen Phillips, how long is it going to take him to get back to who he was? Bradley Chubb at his age and that injury, I mean, we could be looking at a really bad year from him. I like Shaq Barrett. Chop Robinson's interesting. But who are they replacing on the interior? I mean, did they get a defensive tackle in the draft? I'm trying to think back now. Or did they sign somebody? Bring up their depth chart here.
Tart. They signed Tart.
Oh, yeah. T.R. Tart. That's fine. That's just fine. That's not replacing Christian Wilkins. Yeah. And, so I think that I have real question marks. Like if they were better on their line and they still had Wilkins, I might push them ahead of the Bills. But because they don't, I just don't think you can win in this league with just a good offense and a quarterback that's limited in some ways. Now, he was really good last year. He stayed healthy. My money would probably not be on him staying healthy for a full 17 again in 2024 in Tua. And then the Jets are just a tire fire waiting to happen for so many reasons. Like, it's amazing to me, the national narrative that just people just need to embrace this New York team for whatever reason.
I know.
You bring in a guy that's always injured in Mike Williams. So even if he's right coming off that injury, which is a far cry, I don't think that he's going to be. It's not going to be long before he gets injured again, probably. I love Garrett Wilson. I love Breece Hall, but they have a offensive line that is put together with duct tape and thumbnails. And like, I just don't think that they're going to be able to hold up over the course of the season. And oh, by the way, guys, I whisper this because people get in their feelings about it. Aaron Rodgers might be absolutely done. Like, we have not seen good Aaron Rodgers in like 3 seasons, when his last MVP year. So I'm not buying the Jets hype. Their defense is really good. They're going to be really good, but I don't know. I just think Aaron Rodgers and that whole situation, it is a hype train it's on rocky rails, and it could come off at any time. And to be honest with you, every interview that Aaron Rodgers does, I'm kind of more like, let it fall off the rails. Let this thing be an absolute tire fire, because I'm here for it.
Yeah. I was really bummed he went down, and we didn't get to see how it would have played out, so try again. I really wanted to beat them with Rodgers.
It's funny you said that about Rodgers, because we actually just talked about that like a couple of weeks ago, and asking that question. I mean, he's coming off of the Achilles, 40 years old. Is he even going to be remotely the Aaron Rodgers that we knew over in Green Bay?
Right.
But
even going into last year, it was a big question mark. What are the Jets going to look like with Aaron Rodgers? And we still don't know.
Hey, these darkness retreats can do magic wonders.
Okay.
So whatever tarot cards he's reading, we'll just have to see.
Yeah. So the three of us talked about kind of the hierarchy of the division. Well, of course, we put the Bills at the top, and we're pretty much all in agreement. It was Bills, Jets, Dolphins, and of course the Patriots. Matt, would you agree with that?
Say that again. Sorry, you broke up a little bit.
As far as the hierarchy of the AFC East, the three of us had Bills, Jets, Dolphins, and then the Patriots. Would you agree with that, or would you swap the Dolphins and Jets?
I'd swap the Dolphins and the Jets. I still think the Dolphins have been the best team in this division, not in Buffalo, for these last couple of years. And I still think that offense, like, if I'm putting it blow for blow with each other, like with the Jets, I'll take the Miami offense over. I think if I was power ranking units, this is a better way to put it. If I was power ranking units in the AFC East, I think that the Jets defense is pretty high. I might put the Dolphins offense even ahead of that. And that's why I'd kind of go back to them. And, listen, when the Jets and the Dolphins played, it was a tough game. I know that they didn't have Aaron Rodgers, but I just think that there's so many little combustible elements in a huge market. And the Dolphins are going to get off to a hot start. Like, they're a track team. They're going to play in good weather for the first 2 months. They're going to win 6 or 7 of their first 8 or 9 and be right there. And I don't think that the Jets are good enough. And listen, I think that defense has been really good for a long stretch of time. How is Robert Saleh going to handle things if they don't get off to a hot start? People are asking for his job. How does the defense respond to that? Are people pointing fingers? If the offense comes out and they're really stagnant early on, are the two sides of the ball kind of going at it? There's so many little elements that could send this Jets thing into a tailspin that I'm still going to kind of push the Dolphins up a little bit.
Yeah, you just said it a while ago, and I was actually thinking this. I'm going to ask you the question. Do you think this is kind of a make or break year for Saleh? If the Jets falter again, you think he's out?
Yeah, I think he could be out in season. And I don't think it'll take long. I mean, you go back and watch Hard Knocks last year, in season and training camp. And I thought both of those coaches in the AFC East, you got to the end of those seasons and you were like, man, they're on thin ice, man. Mike McDaniel's on thin ice too, in my opinion. Like, if they have another season like last year and potentially maybe even miss the playoffs, I think he's gone. And this is funny because for all the hype around Mike McDaniel, what has he actually really accomplished? I mean, he's gotten a couple playoff years, great. but they've gotten dusted both times in the first round. And I only think that buys you so much when you're paying a guy like Tyreek Hill. And now the Dolphins are like in a bad spot because they're going to have to pay Tua. They've backed themselves into this corner. And if things don't go well this year, then you're paying your quarterback, you're paying an aging receiver. Maybe the defense isn't where it needs to be. And now you're in a spot where you got to start answering some questions as an organization. And, Saleh to me looked like at times last year, switching back to the Jets, it's like he just looked like he was a guy that was up at the podium with no answers. And that's one thing I'll give Sean McDermott, like at the worst of times. And there were some bad times last year. I mean, that 9/11 comments in the training camp meeting, I mean, when that came out, that was about as like much of a PR nightmare as you could face as an NFL head coach. And I thought the poise with which he dealt with that on the heels of the DeMar Hamlin situation the year before and how he led through that, you learn a lot about a head coach in those spots. And in the last year, as things were kind of cratering with Aaron Rodgers' return nowhere in sight, I thought Robert Saleh shrunk. And I think that, Woody Johnson saw that, their GM, Joe Douglas saw that. And the first sign of trouble this year, I think he could be in big trouble.
Wow. I mean, I'd be all for it. Both of them get fired in the same year. That'd be resetting the whole division.
What an entertaining year that would be.
Yeah, no kidding. I think it's time for Buffalo to dominate the division for another, I don't know, 15 years or so.
Yeah.
Matt, I do want to ask you about the wide receivers because that's obviously a hot topic. Before we get into that, though, let's hear from our sponsors really quick.
Hey, it's John from Game On Sports Memorabilia. Check out our huge selection of unopened wax boxes of Pokemon cards. You have to see our selection of over 2 million sports cards in stock, plus hard-to-find card supplies. And if you have anything to sell, bring it in. We can help you determine the true value before you sell it. We pay fair market value every day. It's Game On Sports Memorabilia, 2670 Dewey Avenue in Greece. Check out our podcast for news and information on the card and collectible universe. Also, check out our Facebook page.
For more, call 481-2153. That's 481-2153.
And also, really quick, just a shameless plug. If you're listening on or watching on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe. We really appreciate that. All this offseason has been kind of dominated by the wide receiver room. And me and Casey have a bet. Well, I guess I have a bet with Casey, and it's a one-sided bet, but whatever. I basically am saying that Khalil Shakir hits 100 receptions. I can be completely wrong on that. I know.
Did you make this Did you make this at an establishment that served you alcoholic beverages?
Ronnie,
we're sitting right here.
His dumbass did it live.
All right, nice.
I did. Hey, if I'm going to go all out, I'm going all out.
All right.
I'm a big fan of Shakir's. Obviously, like I said, I live here in the Boise area, so I watched him throughout his collegiate career. I've watched every single one of his games. And I was saying his rookie year, get this guy involved. But, yeah, 100 receptions maybe is a bit much, but I'll stand by that. What do you think where the Bills' wide receiver room is? They're obviously throwing a ton of darts right now at some players, and they're probably only going to keep 6, maybe 7. I know in your recent show on Shout with Ryan, you talked about the possibility of 7, but what do you think of the receiving room and where they're at?
So I think first off, I don't hate the aggressive take on Shakir, and I think it could be anybody's guess who ends up leading the target share in this receiving room. And I think that if I was placing a bet, like if you go to a sports book and get odds on that, you'd probably get some sweet odds on Shakir plus 100 receptions. So put just like $100 on that. You probably win a couple grand.
That's a good idea. I like it.
But I don't hate the idea because I think with the work that they've done in the wide receiver room, the one thing they haven't brought in is a guy like Shakir. And there's been opportunities. I mean, there's guys still out there. Like there's guys like Hunter Renfrow, who to me would be more competition to Shakir in the slot than even Curtis Samuel is, because they play the position completely differently. I think Samuel's role is more of like a flanker light, like somebody that you're going to use in all the different spots in the formation, but can do a little bit of everything, but not any one thing over and over again. So I don't think that's going to take away from Shakir. To your point on the receptions, I think they think he can play on the boundary. I don't know if it's Eric Molds who's giving him some feedback from their offseason workouts or where it's coming from. If they've seen stuff in practice on tape that we don't get a chance to see. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get to training camp and he is on the boundary, for at least a chunk of snaps. And that's where I think his target share and his reception count could grow. I guess my one hot take is, and it's hard because what did Dawson Knox have receptions last year? 70 something, 74.
You mean Kincaid?
Dalton Kincaid. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I think it's like 72, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So I think he had 91 targets, 73 receptions, right?
Yep.
I think that everybody should expect a jump there, maybe to like 110, 115 targets and maybe like 90 catches, somewhere in that range. But my hot take is like, I don't think anybody on this Bills team is going to have 100 catches next year. I think that this ball is going to get spread out. Like I look at a team like the Packers who had all the success last year. They had 32 touchdown passes from Jordan Love. They were third in the league in passing touchdowns last season. And they spread the ball around. Like nobody was like this dominant force. And on the heels of what we saw with Devontae Adams in that offense, I think that they leaned into that, that room that has all of this diversity and these different skill sets. And I think that's what the Bills have now. And I think you could spread the ball out. And I think that there's a competitive advantage into that a little bit, because if you're a team preparing to stop the Bills in years past, you take Stephon Diggs out of the game, you have a really good chance to win that game. Now, who are you taking out? Is it Dalton Kincaid? Because now it's going to be an absolute like Baskin Robbins, pick your favorite flavor type of thing. And they have so many different styles of players. I mean, it almost goes 31 flavors. I mean, you look at that depth chart and there's not two guys that are the same in this room. Even like three guys like Mac Hollins, Chase Claypool, and Marquez, Valdez Scantling. They're three very different style of receiver.
Yeah, that's true. What do you got, Mike?
I was just gonna say, I think you nailed it. It's a wide variety of talents, and it gives us a lot of versatility at what we can do. I mean, it's kind of like a toss up after the first few receivers, who's even going to be on this team. So, we truly got like I said, a wide range, and we could pick from that, pick what's best and what's going to work in our system.
Yeah,
now,
I think there's going to be a surprise cut somewhere.
Do we think that with the different skill sets that we do have, the offensive playbook is going to call more so it's going to be like a not one read type of offense, but like more design play specifically to receivers rather than a whole scheme where Josh has to read the field?
No, I think that if anything, it's going to be it's going to open up more for him to go through his progressions even more freely. Like I don't think that's somewhere where they've already been working on that so much over the last couple of seasons of Allen being able to make the best play. And they said it a lot last year, right? But with Diggs on the roster, like you could say it all you want, but you're lying. You're talking out of both sides of your mouth, because there's going to be times when Stephon Diggs walks into the huddle and says, "Get me the ball." And I'm sure that happened numerous times last year. And he still was by far and away the most targeted pass catcher in the Bills offense last year. Now you don't have that. Now you have Josh Allen is the alpha in that huddle. No matter what the situation is, these are all guys that are either new to the program or maybe have been in. Even a Gabe Davis could probably claim some alpha-ness if he was still in that huddle because he'd been there so long. He's not. I mean, Dawson Knox is Josh Allen's sidekick. He's his best buddy. He's going to be the guy that is supportive of Josh Allen in all those situations. So they've positioned him to be a leader. I think that you're going to see a throwback to more. I think you're going to see Joe Brady tinker with this offense a little bit. I think there's going to be more play action. I think they're going to lean into 12 personnel a little bit more like Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott want them to. And I think they're going to be able to be a more effective running team because of all these different elements that you have at play. I think they're going to open up the deep part of the field because they have weapons in the short area. It starts with Curtis Samuel. He is going to be the key ingredient to unlocking that wide receiver screen game that Joe Brady was dead set on figuring out last year, to his detriment, because he was asking Stephon Diggs to do it, and it was just awful to watch, and it wasn't very successful. Now you have Samuel.
Caught it.
It was like forced, right?
Oh, very forced.
And that's kind of
yeah.
what we're saying. That Josh will have more control over what's going on.
And they have multiple guys that you could do it with now. And I think that Kincaid even can be like kind of baked into that part of the style of the offense. So no, I don't think it's going to be one read. I think that there's places they can go one read, especially in the screen game, and have it be super successful. I'm excited to see what this offense looks like. Brady's it's weird though, because Brady, I know he just got this job, but he's under a lot of pressure too. Like he's got, these are all to me, they feel like his ideas. Curtis Samuel going back to Carolina, Keon Coleman, go back and watch those embedded videos, how animated Brady was in those conversations with him. And I'm sure he was in a lot of different interviews, but then also when the Bills drafted him and McDermott was on the phone with him, with Keon Coleman, and you saw Brady off to the side, like a kid at a candy store, like getting his guy. Like it feels like this offense has been built in Joe Brady's image or his vision. And now he's kind of going to be under some pressure to deliver. And I'm very excited to see how that all plays out.
Now, the fact that it sounds like he may have had a big role in getting these newer offensive weapons on the team. Do you think that kind of buys him a little bit of time, like to get this offense to gel rather than, I mean, I know we had the expectations in year one, but I mean, we all say, you can't base a player off their first year experience. And like as a rookie, you got to give them 2-3 years. Do you think that kind of that same rule falls into Joe Brady this year?
He definitely has time. Like, I don't think that I can't see anything unfolding like Ken Dorsey where he's fired this season. But he has time in the sense that it's still got to go well. I mean, because the Bills are in a spot now where they don't have any time for training wheels because they're in Josh Allen's prime. And if you're not in part of that prime with a play caller that you believe in and that is producing, you have to make a change and you have to pivot. And, in a lot of ways, it was so great that they found Brian Daboll when they did, but these guys are always going to be compared to him. And, you go back to that 2020 season and the highs of the passing game, you got to find that if you're Joe Brady. I mean, this is a guy that fanfare and hype was at an all-time high when he went to Carolina. I mean, he was one of the hottest names in coaching coming out of that LSU program. And so his name is hotter than Daboll's was when he came to Buffalo. But yeah, I mean, the pressure, like I said, is on, and he's going to have to deliver. I don't think that, but again, I can't, unless they just go like 4 and 13 or something like that. I can't see him losing his job this year, if that makes sense.
Matt, appreciate you coming on here. I know you got to get out of here. You've got your own show and stuff coming up too. So, like I said, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate the insight, and it's been awesome.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. Tough week to fit this in. I did the Channel 4 show before this. Got Shout coming up here in about 8 minutes. But it was good to chop it up with you guys, and hopefully we can do it again sometimes this year.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you much. Appreciate you.
Thanks again.
Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
See you
later. Yeah. So Matt, full of knowledge, knows his team inside and out. Really glad we were able to get him on. There's a couple of questions here in the chat that I do want to kind of get to really quick, actually, before we close out the show. And that's one is from Anthony. How do you guys feel about the tough stretch early in the season with the roster turnover we have? And I'll just start with that. When we first started the show, we were kind of talking about that a little bit. And I actually said that the tougher part was in the back half because that's where you got San Francisco, Detroit, and the Chiefs. So I like that we have who we have early so they can get in there, get acclimated, and hopefully by the second half of the season they're rolling. What do you guys think? Case, we'll start with you. As far as, do you think the back half is better or tougher, I guess, than the first half, or vice versa?
I mean, I really think it's about the same. I mean, I understand that 2 of those teams in the back half played in the Super Bowl last year, so obviously that counts for something. And the Lions, I said it earlier, I thought were deserving to go to that Super Bowl over the Niners. But the Ravens, they always start hot. And they've done nothing but get massively better this year, in my opinion. And then we got the Jets, and we also have the Jags that always seem to have our number. And that's another game that I'm really looking forward to. The fact that we get to play them. I believe that game's at home. It's a Monday night football game. I think that game's going to be a big telltale for the season, to where, okay, how do we do against these top echelon teams? Because the Dolphins, no matter what, the Dolphins are always going to be a tough game. It's a division rival. You play them twice a year. There's like personal animosity in that game, so there's always going to be extra motivation on both sides of the ball. But
I
the
mean, at
Jags,
least Wilkins isn't going to be there at the bottom of the pile.
yeah, that's true. That's true, and we don't have to play the Raiders this year, so Josh doesn't have to wear a cup.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, to me, like, the first 6 weeks is a great, I don't want to say warm up to like the middle to back half of the year, but it's a bunch of really good teams that we could beat. We could definitely beat, but
Could lose.
And those teams have also gotten a lot better themselves this offseason. I mean, the Jets, I know we don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to be, but no matter what, we know he's going to be better than what Zach Wilson was last year. So, that's instantly an upgrade.
That's true.
They've gotten better on the defense. I mean, the Jaguars, they added Eric Armstead and Darnell Savage. So, I mean, that defensive line's real now. They've still got Boise Aluakon up at linebacker. Their secondary's coming along. No, there's a lot of really tough games. I'd say as a whole, that back half is probably stronger, but that front half is going to be, in my opinion, harder because of all the turnover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I was just going to add really quick. The middle of the schedule, you've got Titans, Seahawks, Dolphins, Colts. I think that's probably, if there's an easy part of the schedule, that's it, that 4-week stretch right there. But you're right. Before that, multiple playoff teams. After that, multiple playoff teams. Mike, what were you going to say?
I agree. The beginning of the schedule is the hardest for me. The two games, right in the, in just 4 days, and then the mini bye, like Matt called it. But it's gonna be hard to get a rhythm coming into the schedule like that, and and then just the teams. Jacksonville always have trouble. Baltimore, they got Derrick Henry this year too, added, and then Houston with Diggs. I mean, what could go wrong there? And then the Jets, they always seem to come out hot. They beat us without Rodgers last year, so
right.
That beginning, it's the harder part for me. Glad to get it out of the way, but like
I gotta push back. The Jets did not beat the Bills without Aaron Rodgers. Josh Allen beat the Bills without Aaron Rodgers. He had a terrible game. There was nothing the Jets were doing spectacular.
Hey,
and then it still took overtime. It still took overtime and poor coverage.
Zach Wilson still put up 16 points against us. That's that's like 15 more than I would expect.
Yeah. But like so you talk about the easy part in the middle too, but then there's also like the Colts. Like I'm picking random teams that we're going to lose to. Like, I think we're going to beat Kansas City and San Francisco and all these teams. And I'm like, we're going to lose to like the Colts and the Jags and the Lions, or something like that. But I'd more worry about the second half of the schedule if the last 6 games were flipped, where the divisional games were first, and then we were Niners, Rams, Detroit right at the end. I would hate to have to beat them right at the end. At the back half of the schedule. So definitely the beginning is tougher for me, but glad to get it out of really glad to just get it out of the way.
What were you going to add, Casey?
No, that Colts team, I mean, I think that's going to be a good team.
We know you like Richardson. Your hair's still purple. Pink.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to get Richardson back. He's going to be in year 2 now. They drafted Mike's favorite player ever coming out of the draft in A.D. Mitchell.
Hey,
they're
man, that
gonna
was just my best guess.
they're gonna have a full season with Jonathan Taylor. He was injured last year. He also sat out in the beginning of the year. Josh Downs is going to be in the second year, I believe, now in the offense, like overall. So I think that's going to be a hard game. And we always struggle with super run heavy teams, and look what happened the last time that we played the Colts in the regular season. We got the absolute doors blown off of us.
Yeah, we couldn't stop.
So,
What's his
anything.
name?
We couldn't stop anything. They could have
But
put
the running back,
Taylor.
Didn't he run for like 200 plus in that game, like 5 touchdowns?
I'm pretty sure it was like 722 touchdowns. So
Yeah. I went back up here to Scott's comment here. The Ravens lost 3 starting offensive linemen, their best edge rusher, and Patrick Queen, but the media stuck on them getting over the hill Henry. And I brought this comment up because that's where I'm at with Derrick Henry. Like, over the hill, yeah, statistically he had an okay season, but he did not have a Derrick Henry season. He is not the same guy he was 2, 3, 4 years ago. So
he also was on the worst team he's had overall in probably 6 years. So, but you put him on a team just that's overall better, that he is not the focal point on. That makes life a lot easier. Who the hell are you going to stop on a zone read between he and Lamar Jackson? Tell me which decision that edge should make, and I'm going to tell you it's going to be the wrong one.
My answer to that is Coach McDermott and the Bills have always done a really good job against the Ravens and and Jackson. He has been very average against Buffalo. I don't think I take that. I think the Lamar Jackson has 1 win against the Bills and Josh Allen, and I believe that was Allen's first game against them as a rookie or a second-year guy. Since then, though, the Ravens have not beaten the Bills. They can't. They have not been able to figure out them defensively, and McDermott has figured out. Media people have even said that McDermott has a blueprint on Jackson.
Yeah, and just because we say it's a tough part of the schedule doesn't, they're a tough team. They're a good team.
They are a good team.
It doesn't mean that I'm marking that off as a loss for us and a win for them either. So I do think we can win that game.
I have to throw this in there. So I just published my 17 game prediction piece about 10 minutes before we went live, and basically a score prediction for all 17 games. And I did have Buffalo losing to the Colts. 2 reasons. One, I do agree. I think they're going to be better than a lot of people think they're going to be, but Buffalo always seems to lose at least 1 or 2 games against teams you're like, what the heck are you doing? Mm-hmm. And the Colts are just good enough to take advantage of those. And so that's why I've got them losing that one. But I actually only had them at 13-4, and that was not intentional. Once I got done with it, I counted them back. I was like, whoops, because I don't think they're going to get 13. I think my call was 12. We know where
Rice.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
In his defense, I have like a lot of names.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Casey, did you ever say what you think as far as wins? I don't remember you saying giving a number.
No, I want to look at it a little bit more, get a little bit deeper into it. I haven't had much time to really stare at the schedule. I'm doing this podcast on my phone, so while you guys are able to use your fancy computer bucks and look at your phone, I gotta sit here and look at use my phone. So when I get a little bit of time, I'm gonna really dive into it and go, all right, do what you do, do what you did every year as a kid when you were playing sports. All right, we're playing this school. All right, we're playing. We're playing the Giants. That's definitely an out.
Well, so we're definitely gonna have a show where we do just that. Even though Mike and I are calling our numbers now, that's subject to change because we want to see what these guys do in mini camp and in training camp and preseason. And I think the week before the start of the season, that would make a great show where we go week by week and we call out wins and losses and see what we come up with.
Yeah, 13-4. I love that. I gotta. We will have to rehash that. I gotta see it.
He's sticking to that 13.
Yeah,
no matter what.
Last year I was humble. I'm like, this year I'm all for it, man. Balls to the wall.
Mike's gonna die in the hill of 13-4 and Chase Claypool.
No, we're getting more than that.
Hey, listen, we're gonna get out of here. There was over 700 people watching right now. We really appreciate all of you. If you're watching on Facebook, please follow us. Hit the like as well, and of course on YouTube. We're trying to get that YouTube subscriber number up. Our goal is 500 by the kickoff of the 2024 season. So help us out with that and get that number up. And of course, hit the like. You guys got anything you want to add in here before we bounce?
I think you said it. Thanks everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Now we'll catch up with you guys.
And normally we do Thursday nights and Monday nights. This week we will not have a Thursday night show since we're doing it tonight because of schedule release and so we can get Matt Parrino on here. If you have not seen Matt's show with Ryan Talbot, Shout Podcast, check them out. Some great inside stuff that they provide. It's an awesome, great show. We're going to get out of here. We'll see everybody Monday night. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. Screw the Dolphins. Tell your friends.